is the newspaper review segment of the program. Now, starting with stories on the front page of the Daily Trust. The lead story there says dollar sells for 1,355 naira at black market. A couple of riders there say official market closes at 902 naira to a dollar. Many industries may shut down, according to Prof. Shekhar. And also, federal government eyes $1.5 billion World Bank aid. Interesting. And then we see a pictorial there. Illegal crude oil reservoirs uncovered by the Nigerian Army in Odagwa, Eche, Rivers State yesterday. Top of the page, Army uncovers reservoirs with 3 million liters of crude oil in rivers. I think that story is related to the pictorial in the front of the Daily Trust. And also, days after CBN department's move, federal government relocates FAAN, that's the Federal Airport Authority of Nigeria, to Lagos. Well, these are the stories scattered on the front page of the Daily Trust.
All right, let's move on to another national daily. Vanguard is our next stop. And the lead story here says, impact of fuel subsidy removal tough on Nigerians. And that's according to Tinubu. It says parents, guardians, students experiencing discomfort insist future is bright, and subsidy removal, naira scarcity, others heightening panic and hardship. That's coming from Catholic bishops. And then kick against blessing of homosexual and same-sex marriages. Expedite action to cushion effect of your hard economic decisions, Sharia councils tells Tinubu. And lastly, ask the president to tackle insecurity headlong. All right, get details of that, all of that on page 5 in the Vanguard newspaper. Above that, above the lead story we have, we won't allow CBN to print money, says budget ministry. All right, that story is on page 13. And a kicker that says additional's book. Your 8-year rule was biased, unjust, nepotic, Clark tells Buhari. Page 12 has details of that story. And the Afghan cracker, their actions and thrills yesterday. Some Nigerians are not happy about this development.
I'm not happy.
Super Eagles peck elephants. Brighton's qualification chance. Come and collect our 3 points now. We have
come and collect 3 points. Nigerians perform below par. The Super Eagles perform below par.
Let's take a look at the bottom strip where we have lots of stories. Let's start with this one that said Ibadan explosion. Police declare owners of building wanted. Page 7 has details. And in Abia, police men who invaded TV station to face orderly room trial. PPRO. They're making the statement. Get details of that on page 14. And on Plateau Polls, discussion ongoing over appeal court judgment. That's coming from Governor Mufdwang. Page 15 has details of that story. Shatima task African leaders on continent's global GDP. Page 8 has that story. And away Lekamfa. All right, you want to read that story there, page 17. And of course, that's all the stories you have in front of the Vanguard newspaper for today.
And we now switch to the Punch newspaper. We'll start from the top of the page. It says reps order ministries to return 85 billion naira COVID-19 funds. That story is on page 15. Also, all firms, Unity Bank lead as market cap hits 50 trillion naira. Also, FG plans over $3 trillion for energy transition. For the lead story, it says public outrage grows as kidnapping epidemic worsens. 12 Zamfara University students, official 19 Abuja victims, 4 Akwa Ibom corpers among captives. Tinubu urged to tackle insecurity, food crisis at all cost. Bandits attack 10 Kaduna villages. The lead story there could be found on page 2, pages 2 and 12. My dear, you know, we just finished having a discussion.
Exactly, about the insecurity situation in the country.
Insecurity. Also still on the Punch newspaper, IG presents 2 billion naira to families of deceased cops in Abuja. Also, Supreme Court, Abiodun Adebutu learned fate today. Police to pay 50 million naira for arresting Abiola's widow in nightgown. Interesting. That story is on page 14. Also, Ibadan explosion, deaths rise to 5. Soldiers occupy site. And these are some of the stories on the front page of the Punch newspaper.
All right, let's move on to the Nation newspaper. The lead story says federal government charges Emefiele with lying to obtain $6.2 million. And the writer says ex-CBN boss awarded multi-million naira contract to family members. And here it begins. That's the second writer. It started on the front page. I mean, the lead story started on the front page, but continue reading on page 5 in the Nation's newspaper. Above that, just a little above the lead story, we have government offers 12 deep offshore oil blocks for sale. All right, and Shatima pushes for investment. Get details of that in the Nation's newspaper. At the masthead, we have refund 75 billion naira COVID-19 cash. House panel tells ministry. Page 2 has details. APC rules out automatic ticket for Aidatiwa, and they said it will be level playing field. All right, you want to catch up on what is happening in Ondo State. Page 5 has details of that story. And then Eagles shock elephants. Adeleke exposes Ikero, Ire, and Igbajo monarchs, and then honors for Anyoku at 91. Page 30 and 26 have details of the stories all packed in one space here at the Nation's newspaper. And below that, I could see very, very worrisome pictorials there. Some of the victims of the Ibadan explosion, receiving treatment in a hospital. And then we have Abiodun, Sule, Oborewori, Idris, no fate today. And that's the governors of Nasarawa, Delta. Get details of that story. Supreme Court to decide elections appeal. They started on the front page. Page 5 has details of the story. And not the last, but Ibadan explosion, 2 more bodies recovered, and security agents on trail of suspects. Also, reps plan full-scale probe. Page 4 has details. And then South governors unite for region's growth, and Obaseki is braced cheer. All right, get details of all of the stories and the Nation's newspaper for today.
And to the Daily Independent, lead story there says reps ask ministry to refund 75 billion naira COVID-19 funds. Direct Health Ministry to return 10 billion naira for vaccine production. Also, police block kidnappers, rescue man abducted in Abuja in Kaduna. Also, Army uncovers 14 illegal crude oil reservoirs in rivers. Supreme Court dismisses ADC's appeal against Gombe governor. Also, Atiku Lord's court verdict voiding NBC's power to fine broadcasters. And the U.S. Secretary of State Blinken to visit Nigeria, Angola, others. On the belt, we see AEDC signs landmark deal to deliver uninterrupted power in Abuja. That will be the day. That story is on page 6. Also, infractions on wholesome practices detected in NIN enrollment, according to the NIMC DG. And atop the page, we see 4 years after federal government returns FAAN headquarters to Lagos. NCAA, NAMA may return to stakeholders express divergent views. And finally, federal government rearranges Emefiele on amended 20 counts fraud charges. That's it for the Daily Independent.
All right, let's take a look at The Guardian. Food for education as a kicker. That seems to be the lead story this morning. How poor planning, corruption ruined 200 billion naira school feeding initiatives in state. All right, to get details of that, page 4 and 5. And reps panel orders ministers to refund 85 billion naira COVID-19 funds. Page 3 has details. And then on Ibadan explosion, victims recount ordeal, task government on handling explosives. Page 8 has details. And then court grants Emefiele travel permission as federal government files fresh charges. Page 3 of the Guardian newspaper had details of that. And then foreign airlines agencies in fresh push for release of $751 million stock fund. That's huge. Get details of that story on page 20. And then Supreme Court dismisses ADC suit, rules on Gombe, Nasarawa gubernatorial cases today. Page 3 has details. And then state tightens news on mining as Ibadan explosion death toll now 5. Shatima urges African leaders to ramp up continent's $3.1 trillion GDP, and over 100,000 unarmed Nigerians killed in 8 years, says report. Get details of that report on page 7. Then killers of Plateau residents must not escape punishment. That's the editorial page of The Guardian, and it's on page 12.
And that's the much we can take with regards to the newspapers this morning. We have in the studio joining us now for perspectives and, of course, sharing his thoughts. The editor of the 21st Century Chronicle, Nuruddin Abdallah, is here with us in the studio. Good morning, Nuruddin.
Good morning, Abadisi.
Good morning, and it seems we're getting our palliative today. Since you're talking about refunding, the cash.
So perhaps you were among the heads of ministries.
No, he wasn't.
National Assembly was talking about to refund, COVID-19 palliatives.
Wow.
But then again, Nuruddin, security. I really want to ask you this question before we start. So, the issue of the Nabiha case, and then how the former Minister of Communication, Issa Ali Pantami, came into it, and then the statement that he made that the NIN-SIM linkage is not being utilized by the appropriate authorities. It's not that it doesn't work, but it's not being utilized. How do you respond to that?
I think it was unfortunate, and the former minister's statement is really, really ridiculous to say. Why is it so? Is he now telling us that when the policy was formulated, the agencies that were expected to implement it were not brought on board? So apparently it means that it was just one of those, money spinning or food for the boys
kind of project?
Policy, yeah. A white elephant project. Billions were spent on it. You remember? So when they were saying, okay, link your NIN with SIM, whatever, the security agencies at the peak of kidnapping for ransom, Boko Haram insurgency, oil theft and water fuel, we are not brought on board? Is that what the minister is saying? Going forward, the Tinubu administration must probe that scheme, apparently with what the minister is saying. He was saying that in 3 instances, we can't spend billions of taxpayers' money just to achieve 3 instances, as the minister said, on his social media page. Another thing is, I saw, was it the Minister of Defense, was it this morning? I think a press conference or so, saying that they are going to reprimand those who crowdfund for ransom. The minister did that. He was at NIDA for 4 years. He was the Minister of Digital Economy for 4 years. And he was on the social media crowdfunding for ransom.
Do you think that is bad?
While we are at that, kidnappers invaded the Nigerian Post Army estate in Abuja on Thursday night and kidnapped 2 people. Now, the Vanguard says the incident, which happened at about 10 p.m. in the Phase 2 area of the estate, had kidnappers who came into the estate and took away the wife and one of the in-laws of one barrister, Cyril Adiku. According to Austin John, who is a neighbor to the victim, the kidnappers came in and started shooting while they invaded and took away his wife and in-law while the barrister escaped. So now reading back to what we were talking about, so the kidnappers don't even wait for you to get on the highway so they can waylay you and then abduct. They now go to your location, your house, and carry out the kidnapping while we are talking about tracking the mobile phones or even the SIM cards of the said suspects. Unfortunately, we had a security expert here in the studio earlier, and he spoke so passionately about the reasons why Nigerians have not seen the use of this SIM-NIN linkage, which a lot of us really went through some real stress, to see happen to track these kidnappers, and we still see the issue escalating to the extent that it's escalating without really not much in terms of actionable plans being carried out?
I think the Nigerian security agencies have one mentality. They push, 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 and stop. You did the report, was it last week? A traditional ruler around neighborhoods, I think, one of the villages, which the entire community has relocated because the kidnappers are so daring. What they were doing in the forest of Zamfara, Kebbi, are now doing at the Abuja forest. They place 10 million, 20 million on a community, farming community, for them to farm, for them to live, and what they feel. Okay. The gas brigade is here. Almost all the security agencies are there. You remember after the attack, the daring attack on the Abuja prison, the attack on the national security, the gas brigade, you remember? The security was up in arms, and they flushed these bad elements to certain quarters. But it seems that the security has relaxed. And these people now, they used to waylay people on the roads, but now they are even
emboldened enough to go to
encroaching
their house.
This thing happened in Kubwa. How many kilometers to the city center? A lady was kidnapped in Wuse, within even the city center out of it. And President Tinubu you have security chiefs. They must have a brief, they must have a schedule, they must have a timeline. You are army chief, you are air chief, you are police chief, you are intelligence chief. This is your brief, this is your schedule. That is how it should be. We need to see people being fired for their inability to do to carry out their statutory mandate. Unless that is done, then this thing will continue to happen.
So what does this mean now to, the security architecture of the country? Now that I feel like this is a kind of a distraction from whatever is happening in other parts of the country. We have criminal elements trooping into Abuja and perpetrating their act. What does this mean, actually?
What I'm saying is this. The president appoints all the security chiefs. Then it trickles down. We have the commanders, we have the GOCs, and what have you. It shouldn't be business as usual. That yes, Mr. Segira has been appointed as commissioner, and you will stay there, you will stay put until you retire. No.
Reading has started.
You understand? There should be schedule. I don't see reason why a commissioner of police in a state will record 1, 2, 3 security incidences, and the man is still there. If you don't fire him, bring him back to the headquarters. Let him stay in that staff room as a punishment. When you do 1, 2, or 3, they will sit up.
So it's because of the attitude of getting away with negligent behavior. That's what is causing an escalation of this issue. No
consequence. That may be high incident. In that place, there is a DPO. It happens in a territory superintended by a divisional police commissioner. The DSS have their people there. What is happening?
They probably didn't envisage that this situation
envisage, then why is it there? Okay, you are only there to mount roadblock. Is that what they are there for? No. So unless we have a political will to deal with this negligent attitude, to hold people responsible, you are not only a commissioner of police, you blare siren and whatever. No, you have a mandate to achieve. And if you can't achieve it, then you have no business being there. And going back to the even SIM, whatever, it needs to be probed. And like I said, the former minister crowdfunded for ransom on social media. Do you see what happened? They jack up the ransom. If you can get 50 million within 48 hours, why not 500 million? I could not believe it. He was in government. If you were from maybe the academy, I can understand. We're talking about data. You can crowdfund, yes. You can help. Use back channel. Now they jack up the money. Have they been released? No.
So do you think that it's because of the helplessness? Because this can make...
The minister can still generate the ransom without going on Twitter or Facebook to announce it. It has been done severally. Government agencies, politicians do pay for ransom for their close relatives, for their loved ones, neighbors, and what have you.
But it doesn't come.
But it doesn't come up. Look at what they did. We are underrating the psyche of these bad elements. You generated 50 million in 2 days, need to jack it up to 700 million. If you can generate 50 million in 48 hours, then you can generate 100 million, 200 million, 500 million hours. I don't know, maybe, I don't know, he was carried away. He played to the gallery. But more importantly, we should know why government should spend billions on a scheme that is not working. It means that it's a scam. Or we should ask the security agencies, why are they not using this? Are they in bed with the bandits? Are they in bed with the Boko Haram? Up till tomorrow, you can still call. No tracking, no anything. People should be held to account.
So, Dr. Nuruddin, away from that, it's really an unfortunate situation, and you know, we can't take away the fact that whoever talks about this speaks with so much passion, because it touches one and it touches all, and it's so terrible that it has come to a point where, unfortunately, in Nigeria, everybody now knows somebody who had at one point or another been abducted. That's the situation now, unfortunately. But then again, away from all of the abduction and insecurity we are seeing in the National Assembly, where the House of Reps is asking the Ministry of Trade and Investment and also the Ministry of Health to refund 85 billion naira of COVID-19 funds that was supposed to be used as palliatives and also supposed to be used for the production of vaccines, as the case may be. It's 2024 COVID-19 funds. 2024.
I really see Mala Abdullah shaking his head like he could not fathom, you know, the reasons behind some of these actions. Yeah.
So many issues.
Two things, and I hope the National Assembly members are not playing to the gallery. That is one. I hope they are not just calling these people, you know, to divert attention. Yes, you will do maybe at the end of the day when the bureaucrats or the former political office holders are, then they will say off the mic, you know, or some people will start fainting, you know, and what if you. It's really, really a problem. And do you know the most disturbing aspect of this? When all this crime, because it's a crime, took place under the administration of Muhammadu Buhari. That is one. And we had a National Assembly in place. So what happened to oversight? That is one. What happened to our financial regulatory system? Look at what happened to Beta Edu. And they said that the same permanent secretary that condoned a permanent secretary is minuting on a memo generated by an aide of the minister. It doesn't happen that way. All memos start from the permanent secretary to the minister, who is the approving authority. There was apparent illegality. I am not saying that at least that permanent secretary must have spent up to 25, 30 years in the civil service. So he knows all the rules. Why did he condone it? Thankfully, they said that the EFCC is still investigating. I want the head of service and the SGF to investigate those public servants, the directors, the permanent secretary. Why did they flout the rules? If Beta Edu or whatever is her name doesn't know the civil service rules, they know. Permanent secretary are the chief accounting officers. Madam Minister, this is not the procedure. This is how you should do it. But they condone in the sharing of the cake. The same thing with this. Where is the money? Talking about 80-something billion. 85 billion. We hope the EFCC will link up with the National Assembly members. Let's get these people invited. Let them tell us where the vaccines. Maybe the factories, maybe they're in the forest or
on the highway.
But it should not be allowed to just go unpunished. And including the civil servant. Including the civil servant. Politicians, understandably, are not civil servants. That's why we have a permanent secretary. We have DFAs, to show them the way. You must the minister know this is not how to go about it. This is the way. If the minister refuses, then you have every right whatsoever to back out. But we didn't hear, Accountant General has vetoed the thing, and what have you. But the money was still paid, and the permanent secretary was still sitting. And now you're saying that he's even heading the ministry in question. A lot need to be done, you understand?
I'm sure Nigerians are waiting for what's to unfold in the coming days, weeks, or months. But let's take a look at this in front of the front page of Daily Trust. Days after CBN department's move, federal government relocates fan to Lagos. What's your take on this model?
Unfortunately, Nigerians look at things from their various prism. If the religious prism is not convenient, you drop it, you pick the ethnic one. If the ethnic one is not the most appropriate, then you pick the sectional one. From the explanation, I don't know, must every agency be in Abuja?
You could argue that because it's the federal capital territory.
Okay, you are now saying that we should move the MPA to Abuja. We should move NIMASA to Abuja, right?
So the decentralization is good?
Of course, for efficiency. Take MPA, for instance. Maybe with this now, there should be advocacy now that the MPA should be at the federal capital. The highest they could do is to have a liaison officer. The same thing with NIMASA, or the same thing with NIWA, which takes care of our waterways. It should leave the riverine area, and come and establish a big edifice. And why are we so concerned about buildings? My understanding is absolutely for corruption. If you look at the case of the CBN, everybody wants to come to Abuja. Everybody wants to come to Abuja. And like in their own explanation, you will be getting money. Is it duty traveling allowance or whatever, to go to Lagos and do something? Wrong. Have a small office. So how much are they spending in maintaining this very big edifice? Take FIRS, for instance. Almost every building in Abuja is owned by FIRS. Are people queuing to pay tax? Tax remittance has been automated. Why these big buildings everywhere? You need to give out contracts because some people want to get it back. Facility management, and what have you. Why? That is why our recurrent expenditure is snowballing every fiscal year. So what FAN did, like they said, everything is Lagos. They should be where the action is. You understand? I don't see anything wrong, personally. Those who are impugning ethnic or religious, whatever, I don't think that's right.
Let's take a look at another story, a developing story, still on a sad note. The death toll in the Ibadan explosion, which unfortunately happened on Tuesday night, is now 4 as details of illegal miners emerge. Now, the story says, following Tuesday's explosion, which rocked Bodija in Ibadan, Oyo State, One more corpse has been recovered from the rubble, bringing the total number of casualties to 4 as rescue operations continue. Daily Trust reports that the yet-to-be-identified corpse was found yesterday morning. Meanwhile, the details about the alleged illegal miners said to be responsible for the stockpiling of explosives which resulted in the explosion emerged. A former member of the Oyo State House Assembly, Barrister Muideen Olagunju, who revealed that one Sawani Yusufu, a Malian who was occupying the building where the incident occurred, was the leader of the illegal miners in the state, and warned that there was a possibility that people working for illegal miners in Ibadan had explosive in their living apartments. So first of all, this unfortunate situation has happened. The explosion, according to sources, destroyed, it leveled everything within 100 meters of the explosion site. Malam Nuruddin, the issue of illegal miners stockpiling explosives is a serious safety hazard. What do we do to address these issues? I'm asking it because we know that the activities of miners are very predominant, especially in the north central, upwards of the northwest as well.
How many people were arrested so far?
To the best of my knowledge, none.
Why?
Well,
because they claim to have license to operate.
We all celebrated foreigners. So you mean a Malian will carry his briefcase, come to Lagos, enter a bus or take a ride to Ibadan with a truckload of explosive, undetected? Ibadan. It is not in one deep forest. Ibadan. One of the affected property, I think, was what belongs to the former deputy governor. So it means that the area is not a slum.
It's a highbrow area.
It's a highbrow area.
IEDs. So you bring IEDs, you procure IEDs in a country suffering from banditry, Boko Haram, and what have you. There are no laws on IEDs, how to procure and how to process them. I know you at the peak of the Boko Haram. Even fertilizer, this urea.
Yes.
They ban the hard one. You have to use the liquid one. Because Boko Haram, we are intercepting them, what have you. Aisha Kasimian factory at that time has to be shut down because they go there and get the explosive where they use weapons. If Governor Makinde is serious, we should have a high power panel. Who are the people behind these Malians? A Malian cannot just use a parachute and land in Ibadan with a truckload of explosives.
The report mentioned, I think, 3 Malians, Yusufu Sawani, Darame Ibrahima, Yatara Ibrahim, and then finally a Nigerian, Bakari Hakim Oladimeji. It says they were the directors in the company involved in the illegal mining activities.
It's a private company. They must have government backing. Maybe they contributed much to even the electioneering in the state. The security must know them. It is like in Abuja, it's not that happened maybe in Wuse or Geriki or what have you. It didn't happen in Nyanya or Mararaba. So they must be high profile people. The security, the DSS know them. The police know them. Government and politicians know them. And what is the national policy on procurement and processing of IEDs in a country suffering from all manner of security challenges?
Let's hope that, this...
They should do the needful. Now, Malians, we like to trade blame to Malians, but you can't do that in Niger Republic, our neighboring Niger.
While we're doing the blame trading, we do hope that the panel that's been instituted to investigate comes up with relevant recommendations towards making sure that this does not repeat itself, and of course those responsible for the unfortunate situation face the full wrath of the law. Malam Nuruddin Abdullah, thank you so much for joining the program.
But I would let him go. We're having a discussion with Sagir, and he said that he's not happy about Nigeria's win. So just in a minute, tell us what you think about the match yesterday.
I am not a football, but at least it saved the day.
It's a penalty save
Exactly
the day.
my
but
point.
penalty. Anyways, we'll have that conversation. Up next is the sports program with Emmanuel Fashimi. We get to have a full-blown conversation about Nigeria's match yesterday with Cote d'Ivoire. But for me, well, it's thank you so much for watching Daybreak, and do have a lovely weekend. I'm Sagir Ibrahim.
And thank you as well for being a part of the show today. My name is Merdia Umar. Keep watching Trust TV.